For decades, Ron Howard looked untouchable, like nothing dark could ever reach him. The calm voice, the soft smile, the endless wins in Hollywood all sold one clean image. But behind that polished surface, Ron was carrying weight he never let slip. Only recently did he finally open up, and what came out wasn't light or easy. We're talking buried pain, lingering regret, and a family struggle that hit harder than any box office loss he ever faced. That silence he protected for years is gone now. And what Ron admitted shook people because it wasn't about fame at all. It was about the pressure he swallowed for a lifetime. Ronald William Howard, born March 1st, 1954, in Duncan, Oklahoma, didn't ease into the spotlight. He was dropped straight into it before he could even understand what attention meant. His parents, actor Rance Howard and actress Jean Spiegel Howard, raised him in a world where creativity clashed with discipline and dreams mixed with money stress. Childhood wasn't soft or simple. It came with expectations, schedules, and adult pressure that never paused. While other kids were just being kids, Ron was already learning how to perform. At only 18 months old, he appeared in Frontier Woman. That moment quietly locked him into a life he never truly got to choose. Even decades later, that early start still echoed. When the family moved to California in the late 1950s, chasing television opportunities, Ron's life stopped looking normal in any sense of the word. Scripts sat next to dinner plates. Auditions mixed with family routines. His father balanced military duties while managing acting work, and Ron, still losing baby teeth, was memorizing lines instead of playing freely. Years later, he described that time as a golden cage, safe but isolating, full of responsibility he never signed up for. Everything shifted again on October 3, 1960, when The Andy Griffith Show premiered. At just 6 years old, Ron became Opie Taylor, America's favorite symbol of innocence. The country felt like it owned him. Behind the scenes, though, he was a quiet kid doing schoolwork in a small room near Stage 40 at Desilu Studios, hearing other children laugh outside. His father fought hard to shield him, pushing back on scripts and drilling one rule into him: never act cute, only act honest. That lesson shaped Ron's craft forever, but it couldn't protect him from the deeper cost of being everyone's child while never fully belonging to himself. Those pressures stacked up silently year after year, and now, decades later, Ron admits those early wounds never fully healed. They followed him into adulthood and cracked parts of his personal life people assumed were solid. That was the real price of being America's son, and the world only ever saw the success. What nobody saw was how deep that pressure cut into him. When The Andy Griffith Show ended in April 1968, Ron was only 14, but emotionally he was worn down far beyond his years. He had spent 8 seasons living inside a fictional town, surrounded by adults who cared for him, yet completely shut out from the messy freedom most teenagers take for granted. His education was split and scrambled. Some days were real classrooms in Burbank. Other days were rushed tutoring sessions squeezed into corners at Desilu. He learned math while stagehands rolled dollies past his desk. Lunch wasn't with kids his own age. It was with Andy Griffith, Don Knotts, and crew members twice or 3 times his age. Those small details quietly revealed the price he was paying. That cost showed up early. During the filming of The Music Man in 1962, Ron was just 8 years old and terrified he couldn't nail a dance routine. He whispered to Shirley Jones, "I can't do it, Shirley." She calmed him down, and the production hid his mistakes by shooting him from the knees up. Audiences praised his shy charm, never knowing the fear shaking him underneath. Those hidden anxieties stuck with him. They shaped a young man who learned how to perform confidence even when it wasn't real. Then came Happy Days in 1974. Ron was 19 when he walked into Gary Marshall's office, unknowingly stepping into another role that would lock his identity all over again. As Richie Cunningham, he became America's clean-cut, dependable boy next door. The public loved it. Ron didn't. By 1977, at 23, he felt trapped playing a teenager while the real world outside was spinning fast. Vietnam dominated headlines. Youth culture was shifting hard. But Richie stayed frozen in time, untouched by reality. Ron even wrote a memo to ABC asking for just one storyline that acknowledged the war. It was rejected. That quiet dismissal hit deep. He felt invisible inside the character, stuck in perpetual adolescence, desperate to grow while the show demanded he stay the same. That suffocating pressure forced a realization. If he wanted his identity back, he had to leave acting behind. Directing wasn't a dream, it was an escape hatch. And that escape finally cracked open in 1977 when Roger Corman made him an offer that felt like a lifeline. Star in Eat My Dust, and he could direct his own film. Ron didn't say yes for fame, he said yes for freedom. That deal led to Grand Theft Auto, a wild car crash comedy co-written with his father, Rance Howard. They shot it on a $602,000 budget, wrecked 70 cars on camera, and pulled in $15 million. For the first time, Ron felt real control, something acting had never given him. But control brought its own weight. He became obsessive with details, relentless. Project after project followed. Night Shift in 1982, Splash in 1984, then Cocoon, Willow, and Parenthood. Each success boosted his reputation, but it also stacked more pressure onto his shoulders. By the early 1990s, Ron wasn't the boy from Mayberry anymore. He was a Hollywood force expected to deliver perfection every single time. And in 1995, he faced one of his toughest tests with Apollo 13. Determined to honor the astronauts, he refused shortcuts. The production filmed over 600 zero-gravity sequences aboard NASA's Vomit Comet, each lasting just 23 seconds. Exhausting, brutal, and exacting. That was the moment success stopped feeling light and started feeling heavy. They rebuilt Mission Control down to the last blinking detail. Real NASA panels were bought for $1 each, and nothing was allowed to be close enough. Every switch, every light, every flight call had to be dead accurate. Ron Howard pushed himself past reasonable limits, working 18-hour days for 90 straight days, barely sleeping, refusing shortcuts, refusing to simplify the science for comfort. Then his body finally tapped out. One morning, Ron collapsed on set. Severe dehydration, high blood pressure, total burnout. Production shut down for 36 hours. When he came back, shaken but still locked in, the crew showed up wearing shirts that read Mission Control. It was their silent way of saying they had his back no matter what. But behind that calm smile, Ron knew the truth. He'd crossed a dangerous line. He had become a perfectionist who could break himself without realizing it. And that realization stayed with him for years, not just because of what it did to his health, but because of what it took from the people closest to him. The regret never really let go. For all his success, nothing weighs heavier than what happened in 1991. That year should have been pure joy. His daughter Jocelyn had just been born. His career was climbing fast, and he finally had creative freedom most directors only dream about. Then Universal Pictures scheduled a 6-month shoot for Far and Away in Ireland, and Ron made a choice he'd regret for decades. He left for half a year. His wife, Cheryl Howard, stayed home raising newborn twins and young Bryce Dallas Howard on her own. Ron was across the world grinding through rewrites, weather problems, location stress, and studio pressure. When he finally came home, the damage hit hard. Jocelyn didn't recognize him. Bryce barely reacted. Cheryl was exhausted in ways words couldn't fully explain. In 2025, Ron admitted that moment broke something inside him. The sudden understanding that success meant nothing if it cost him his family. He promised himself he'd never disappear like that again. But life doesn't always let you keep clean promises. In 2005, during reshoots for Cinderella Man, he slipped back into the same cycle. Sleepless nights, endless decisions, missed milestones and memories. He came home again to kids who had grown without him and a wife who had held everything together through quiet strength. Later, Ron confessed that second lapse forced him to face what he'd been running from since childhood. The belief that he always had to say yes, always had to go harder, always had to prove he deserved his seat at the table. It wasn't until their 50th anniversary in 2025, when he donated a bench to John Burroughs High School, where he first met Cheryl, that Ron finally said the truth out loud. He has said it flat out. He would trade every award, every hit film, every standing ovation, if it meant getting back the weeks and months he lost with his children. And still, the hardest part of his story was waiting in the shadows. The one fight he couldn't plan for, fix, or direct. The brother he may lose. While Ron Howard often speaks with pride about his wife and kids, there is one bond that shaped him long before Hollywood ever did. Long before fame, long before marriage, there was his younger brother, Clint Howard. To the public, Clint was the quirky character actor popping up everywhere, from Star Trek to Apollo 13. But to Ron, Clint was something deeper. The only person who truly understood what it meant to grow up inside a machine that never asked how you felt as long as the cameras kept rolling. They started as kids on nearby sets, crossing paths in hallways packed with cables and the harsh glow of studio lights, both earning paychecks before they could fully understand money, both performing before they knew who they really were. In a world that demanded maturity way too early, Clint was proof Ron wasn't alone. They weren't just brothers. They were co-workers, survivors, and witnesses to a childhood no outsider could fully grasp. But adulthood hit Clint hard in the 1980s. While Ron's directing career exploded, Clint fell into addiction, pulled down by cocaine and alcohol, sliding toward a dangerous breaking point. Ron, terrified and heartbroken, drew a line in 1990. Get help, or lose the relationship forever. Clint chose rehab, and years later, the brothers laid everything bare in their memoir, The Boys, crediting honesty and love with saving Clint's life. It was a victory, but not the end of the fight. Now, decades later, Ron faces a fear he can't outrun. Clint is battling a serious health condition, one Ron has described as debilitating and life-altering. The details stay private, but Ron's voice tells the story. This isn't a routine illness. This is the kind that reshapes a family's entire rhythm. Days spent waiting, nights filled with quiet dread. For the first time, Ron is powerless. He can't call cut. He can't rewrite the ending. He can't protect the brother who once shielded him from the loneliness of fame. And that truth hits harder than any bad review ever could. Ron has admitted he's not afraid of failure anymore. Not critics, not box office numbers. He's afraid of losing the one person who has walked beside him through every chapter of his life. That confession cracked his carefully held calm. As Clint's condition worsened, Ron was forced to face a truth he avoided for years, buried under professionalism, discipline, and quiet endurance. The man who spent 5 decades telling powerful stories suddenly had to confront his own fragility. In recent interviews, Ron said this chapter has shaken him more than any career stumble. Not EDTV, not Solo, a Star Wars story, not even the pressure of Apollo 13. None of it compares to the fear of losing Clint. He described sleepless nights replaying childhood memories, the tiny schoolroom at Desilu, whispered talks between scenes, the way Clint made the studio lights feel less cold. Those memories, once comforting, now carry a heavy ache. Ron also admitted something painful: guilt. Guilt that while his career soared, Clint was quietly fighting demons. Guilt that he missed signs. Guilt that he couldn't protect him sooner. This new crisis changed everything. Ron has stepped back from long productions. He's turned down projects that require extended travel. Even Imagine Entertainment, the studio he co-founded in 1985, now runs more independently so he can stay close to home. These days, Ron's life isn't ruled by call sheets or studio deadlines anymore. It's ruled by something far more real: time, family, and the quiet hope that he still has more moments left with the brother who helped him survive it all. Now his days don't revolve around premieres or production meetings anymore. They revolve around family dinners, quiet talks, and moments he refuses to lose again. And that led to the most emotional admission of his entire career. Ron Howard said the silence between projects finally forced him to face something he never allowed himself to say out loud. He spent a lifetime telling stories for the world, powerful stories, inspiring stories. But somewhere along the way, he stopped telling his own story, and that realization hit hard. Standing at 71 years old, with a $200 million legacy and decades of history behind him, Ron is finally learning a painful truth. The biggest achievements don't mean much if the people you love are slowly slipping away. That's the part that shook fans the most. Not that he struggled, but that he carried it all alone for so long. Now that he's finally opened up, the heartbreak feels real. Some wounds don't fully heal, even for one of Hollywood's most beloved figures. So what part of Ron Howard's journey surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories just like this. And we'll see you in the next one.